So let it be written, so let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors, and that is probably the meanest thumbnail I've ever taken. And so this is Daily Damage. It is a vlog in which I walk and talk to you as I do so. And so what we're about here at Tabletop Terrors, if this is your first time checking us out, we believe that creativity is something that everyone can get better at, and that intrinsically it makes you happier. And we use tabletop RPGs to prove it. So this is going to be a really conversational video, and if you're looking for more produced kind of videos, you should probably check out something else of ours. I will be replying to comments because this is a live stream in which people comment as well. There are going to be a lot more lore dumps in this particular video, so I'm going to have conversational breaks in between some of the major points. But what we're going to go over is our campaign setting of Dragongrin. We're going to talk about some secrets that James and I have been working on for, I guess, about 3 years. And we're getting ready to kickstart our campaign setting guide called The Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin. And so I'm going to tell you everything we've come up with. I'm going to tell you the secrets. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check into the chat just because I love talking to everybody. And we'll go from there. What you looking at is here. Ic bon vulgaris magistralis. Just lyrics to a Viking metal song. Ignore me. What's up? Alan is here. Alan Holloway runs the YouTube channel Check for Traps, and he is one of the main reasons we're doing this video. I promised him this video. It's been like 2 weeks, and it was, we've just finalized some details, and so we're gonna go from there. What's going on? Andrew Knoll is here. He says, caught you live. I love your work. Thank you, Andrew. I love your work. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure you do great stuff, and thank you for spending time with me. That's awesome. Jarl DM hopping in to hear some radness about the Dismembered Lord. Check out Jarl DM's channel. Prolific, brilliant dungeon master. Lloyd just has a sense for storytelling, and you can learn a lot just from watching his live plays about pacing and tone and play style. So, okay, well, I'm gonna jump in here. So I'm gonna give a baseline explanation of what Dragongrin is very quickly for anyone who's just joining us. So Dragongrin is the campaign setting from Absolute Tabletop. It's primarily written by me and my brother James, and the elevator pitch is that it's what if the Dark Lord actually won. So what if the good guys tried to win but failed, and the Dark Lord won? What would that look like 20 years later? The Dark Lord in our campaign is someone called the Dismembered Lord. Little aside here, little pop-up video, factoid, the name the Dismembered Lord was something I typed into a document preparing for a one-shot, and it just seemed like better than the Shadow Lord and all the other kind of tropey ones. And so it just proves that prep can be one of the best ways to write lore. So the Dismembered Lord rules. He won a battle known as Lightfall. Lightfall is essentially the final routing of the good guys. So if you need a frame of reference, this would be like if Frodo and all of the amazing characters from the Fellowship failed. Got a phone call there. So I want to give you a couple of things right away, what we're going to cover. The first, we're going to cover what the Dismembered Lord is, what his motives are, and then something that smart people like Lloyd, Jarl DM, has brought up. How can he be an all-powerful evil, yet good exists? What would stop him from doing whatever he wishes? And so we have a framing device for that, and we're going to explain that. And we're also going to talk a little bit about his motives, who he is, and why he's doing what he's doing. So let's start with what he is, who he is. Okay, at a very high level, we decided that the Dismembered Lord is someone who was a part of the realm. He was a part of a realm that was thriving and growing, and he began to steep himself in the lore of the bleak, which is where all the magic comes from in our world. So he was able to begin to see different timelines, and he used this to help the realm for some time. But he was able to see various realities, even various permutations. But something happened. Every timeline that he was able to look through, he saw that his ended. He would die. And so, knowing this, he became very selfish. And having the ability to see through these timelines and see that his would end, he was also able to glean that those who were in power, those who would be able to shift the future of the realm, his death notwithstanding, take his death out of it entirely, he saw that the Holythic Church, the most powerful religious organization, as well as the various kings and rulers, that every future also saw destruction and ruin of the realm. And so he essentially brought all the leaders together. He's from the realm of Arthun, which essentially he had some sort of power there. We'll call him maybe like he was a magistrate or a vizier, something like that. He brought those who would listen together, and he basically showed them the futures of the realm fading, not him dying. He showed them the futures of the realm dwindling, failing. And in their hubris, they ignored it. Nobody wanted to change anything. And so they also killed him. They assassinated him, this man named Varus. And but he wasn't dead. You know, I want to do some variation of, you know, he basically he didn't die. He clawed his way back to Arthun, and that is where he began his rise. And of course we could make it so that in the assassination maybe he was actually dismembered, you know, something like that. Again, this is all our high level concept, so the details are going to fluctuate, but the main idea is, from there he began to use his ability to see through the different timelines, and he began to harvest the bleak, and he began to take the power from the other timelines to feed his own life, to feed his own timeline. So let's say his timeline ends in 3 years, and he knows that. He would be able to steal the days. He was a chrono lich now. He'd be able to steal the days from other timelines, from other beings, and add them to his own, creating this Dragongrin Prime. And in doing so, he warped the time of the realm. Now, we've also discussed that there could be a cataclysmic event sort of on the horizon. Essentially, like, and Rob and I from Performance Check have talked about this, that perhaps the thing that he saw when he was scrying before they murdered him was sort of an Armageddon type event that he tried to have them avoid. But he began to steal these days and forge his own timeline. And in doing so, he began to rise to power. And the realm known as Arthun resurfaced as the more powerful Grin, the realm of Grin. Now, in Dragongrin, the term Grin means to rise, honoring the dead. It also means a grave. So the phrase Dragongrin actually means grave of dragons. But he rose, and the realm was Grin, under a new banner, new standards. And in this power that he has now able to wield, to alter and shift time and the bleak, he begins to rise to power. And he essentially raises forces to defeat and quell those who would oppose him and those who murdered him, who in that time were the good guys, right? But still, in the back of his mind, the thing that he wants more than anything else is to not die. He still sees that his timeline it ends. And so he becomes more and more hungry and mad for power and saving his own life. And he continues to drink and steal days from other realities, which only continually warps the reality of Dragongrin, our current Dragongrin that he's on. So, the realm of Dragongrin has a skewed, terrible timeline, and this man, Varys, he defeats the forces of good. He wins. How could he not win? And so, he uses these stolen days to continue to build himself and become this all-powerful being. And so that is sort of his origin. But this chronolich who can steal days, who's trying to save his own life, trying to save his own skin, why wouldn't he, if he was all-powerful, defeat anything or anyone in the realm who would oppose him? Why not just look and see and scry and see who's doing what and then just end it all? Well, there's a very good reason for that. And that is the second thing. In a realm where evil has won and is all-powerful, how does any good persist? We're going to talk about that in 1 second as we scroll back up to the chat, which I'm sure there's plenty of stuff going on here. Jarl DM says, hey, he said, I'm far too kind, talking about his channel. No, man, you're killer. You're an inspirational DM. Oh, Matt Click from A Fistful of Dice here. He says, the secrets of Dragongrin. The Dismembered Lord loves a good grilled cheese. White bread and creamy cheese is a must for him. Red Cause says, hey, what you looking at? Says, what's his stance on crust? Matt says, Dismembered Lord doesn't mind crust, but has his followers cut it off as a show of power. Quad Gaming says, the beard is glorious. Thank you. Dr. Professor says, we should just have Matt do the secrets. Listen, I totally agree. He has the secrets. If you want to know the secrets, say, tell me the secrets. Azano says, deep Osiris vibes. What you're looking at says, he was thrown to the sharks. Xanos Nightblade says, the Dismembered Lord is actually just a bunch of sharks stitched together. Oh, wow. Rob from Performance Check is here. He says, I have answered my summons, my Dismembered Lord. This is amazing. So here's the main thing I want to point out before we jump into the next bit, which is we're writing this book called A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, and we're going to have these pillars of this happens, this occurrence happens, but then there's going to be a roll table of how yours happens in your realm. So in canonical Dragongrin, you'll know, say, hey, Tim and James say this occurs. But for you in the book, there's going to be a roll table to say, how did he become the Dismembered Lord? And we'll give you these pillars so that it's not just so rando. But the idea has always been to keep it mythical, keep it monstrous. And so all those details that I kind of ran you through was for a frame of reference. The nuance and the ideas are much like Batman or Spider-Man. You can pick up a Spider-Man comic and the origin's going to be different, slightly, but that's okay because the mythos is there. The anchors that hold together the framework and the tone and the feel of the whole thing is there. So here is the Dismembered Lord, and why in your Dragongrin wouldn't he just wipe everything out? Well, we think it's pretty cool. Here we go. The Dismembered Lord is essentially this chrono lich we talked about, who is stealing days from others and from their realities to pad his own and cobble together this patchwork timeline that is unnatural. And as the universe around it bends and buckles, this is one of the reasons why the Bleak is so ferocious in Dragongrin, because it roils and barks like red blood cells trying to fix the timeline. And so as it does so, why wouldn't he just make the reality he wants? Well, because the timeline has become so unstable that the Dismembered Lord has a machine, a device. Imagine it as whatever you want. I like to think, for the sake of this stream, that it is these various constructs, these tome hearts and war makers, sort of cobbled together like when, if you've ever seen the film Minority Report, just like cobbled together, showing him this heat map, this arcane chrono heat map. This thing is called the Crucible. So the Dismembered Lord has this Crucible, and this Crucible is a heat map of disturbances in the timeline. What is going to shatter the reality that he's built? That is what happens. So, it could be a simple farmer needing to die. That could be bright red on the heat map. So the Marrow, his stormtroopers, arrive and they slay the farmer, seemingly without any sort of warning or reason. But this is what this also creates. How terrifying is this? Listen, that same farmer needs to live for the Crucible, for that disturbance to go away. So there's a local brigand who comes by and is harassing the farmer daily. Well, imagine how crazy it is that in Dragongrin, the Marrow show up, approach the brigand who has the farmer cornered with a dagger, and they slay the brigand violently. They give the farmer no attention whatsoever. They turn without so much as a word and leave. Let's take this example even crazier. This farmer's crops, for the timeline to stay, for it to not shred apart like so many stitched together pieces of chrono flesh, this farmer's crop has to be great. So, what happens? Well, the farmer wakes up one day and it's barely dawn. He begins to get dressed. He eats his stale bread. And when he approaches his field, there are war makers tilling it, farming for him. What? It's terrifying. So, how can good persist? Because there is a hero. There is one specific hero who needs to live, because the Crucible says so. This monitor, this thermometer of this chronological patchwork is saying, no, this hero needs to live. In fact, behind closed doors, there's, say, for instance, a thieves guild is attempting to assassinate this hero of Dragongrin. The hero needs to live. So a harbinger of the Dismembered Lord, this bestial wolf-like creature, comes in, thrashes, destroys the entire thieves guild. Now, the hero never knows that it had anything to do with him. But the thieves guild is just destroyed and shattered. So everyone fears because they don't know. They don't understand. To them, there's no rhyme or reason. But to the Dismembered Lord, he has a specific intention and a goal, and it makes him real as a person. Save his own life and save the realm. And Matt Click made a really good point when we were kind of brainstorming this, and he said, do you know what this means? Dragongrin is a living Stockholm syndrome. Because what if you did stop the Dismembered Lord? What would happen to the timeline? What if you did destroy the Crucible? If you even knew about it, would the realm collapse? What would happen? And that is how, in a world where evil has won, the Dismembered Lord doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about your family. He doesn't care about what you're doing unless it disrupts the timeline. That is how it goes. So, the Dismembered Lord is a chrono lich who steals days so that his own life can persist. He uses something called the Crucible, which is an arcane heat map, to see any potential disturbances in the timeline he's created. If there are any potential disturbances, he ends them before they can begin, and that is the Dismembered Lord. Let's go to the chat. Woo! We got a lot. Alessandro says, hi guys, what's going on, Alessandro? Really glad to have you today. Jared Rogers, hello. Hey, Paul S says, hey, I made a live chat. Keep up that walking. I will keep up this walking, I promise. What you looking at says, so is he dismembered? Or does it mean he has dismembered the timelines? So, yes. Yes. We also like to think that, a lot of people have come up with their own versions of the Dismembered Lord. And so here's a really cool thing. We're going to have a canonical prime, Dismembered Lord. This is what he looks like. This is what he sounds like. This is everything. But our plans for the book, Dead Man's Guide, is to have variations from different timelines. And essentially you can say that yours is the one that rose to power. So there'll be a more cleric-like or rogue-like or mage-like. And we hope to have art for all of this. But what it does is it lets you choose which one is your Dismembered Lord prime. It's almost like in the book right now, the sections that we're writing, they're titled Aspects of the Dismembered Lord. So which aspect is your Dismembered Lord? Is he a withered old mage? Or is he a hulking brute? Is he a black armor-clad anti-paladin? Or is he, someone who is in leather armor? Disfigured, made of the bleak? There are a lot of different things. But it's a framing device and a framing device so that it can make sense without a hand wave. Let's see here. Hey. We got a lot of comments, so forgive the silence here. RPG Construct is here. Drake Warren. I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Drake Warren has run the most Dragongrin games of anyone. Drake has been a fan of Dragongrin since the beginning. He's been around before we even had a single book out. And so shout out to the RPG Construct. You can check out their YouTube channel, and you can also check out a podcast that Drake is a part of with Jake Norman of Mini Terrain Domain called Something RPG-ish. Mini Terrain Domain is also an incredible YouTube channel. Check out all those things. C.A. Hollenbach. Chronomancer, new class. Maybe, not in this book, but maybe. Tabletop Gaming with Juice has a question. Oh, and before I answer this, I just want to let everybody know there's going to be one more secret that we kind of spit out here at the end. Well, after I go through the chat, I have one more thing I want to tell you that we're super proud of that I don't think anybody knows yet. And so it's one more effect of this chrono siphoning, chrono vampirism. Tabletop Gaming with Juice. Question. Do you expect in this setting to have more players playing evil characters? I think the answer to that will be, it will be a lot more difficult to put a binary assignment to good and evil. Meaning, is it evil if I slay 2 people to save my family? Yes. If I slew your brother? No, if I protected my family. So it's about morality being gray. Shows like The Walking Dead touch on this sort of thing, which is the boundaries of what people will do to survive slowly get worn away. And you are, sadly, I mean, this is terrible, but if you want to make a moral choice, it will cost you. So yeah, I think there will be evil characters. There's also going to be a system called the Infamy system, which is a super simple sort of point system, a lot like Madness, if you want to look at our inspiration. That gives you infamy. And if someone sees you doing something in opposition to the Dismembered Lord, you can get infamy, and those infamy effects stack until eventually you're a known hero in the realm. That kind of thing. Xanos Nightshade says, so, like if the Dismembered Lord values you, does he gift you extra days based on how important you are to him? So, I would say that's awesome, and yes. But you'd have to be super valuable because you're talking about the very thing that he persists on. This is how he survives. So it would have to be like, yes, it would have to be a momentous occasion. Like what a cool idea for a one-shot comic book. It's just called Stolen Day. And you basically get one more day to live. You get gifted one more day to do whatever you need to do. And that would be cool. And it would be a great one-shot game as well. So there's a game idea. Heavenly Hit Points, what's going on? What you looking at says, so if I imagine that he kills all potential chrono mages at birth, any chrono mage who makes it to adulthood and to power would have to live completely secretive life. And that's the kind of thing.
I would probably compartmentalize that under, yeah, that heat map will be going nuts. The Crucible will be firing on all klaxon bells. So, because how do you identify that? Yeah, so, but I would say these are the exact kinds of plots and conflicts we're trying to create with these framing devices to make it super interesting. There will never be a lack of games to run in Dragongrin, and the hand waving is going to be real easy. Stephanie and Tyler, who's probably Tyler, says if he's a time lich, then he could have his phylactery and a clock tower. So, yes, we've talked about if he really is a chrono lich.
Workout complete.
If he really is a chrono lich, he would have, I think it would be really cool if he had multiple phylacteries, even to the degree where we've talked about maybe even having the Dismembered Lord puts a piece of himself in every War Maker that he creates. And that is how they're, number one, that's how they're powered, but number two, it's how he separates himself. So unless you killed every War Maker also, so you know what it is? The Dismembered Lord is playing Age of Empires, and he's got that dude over there hiding in the corner with a bundle of wheat, and you just can't kill him. So it's that kind of an Ultron vibe where he's got himself so spread out. It's not just one phylactery, it's this living engine of War Makers. Tabletop Gaming with Juice says, love this, Tim. Thanks, man. I'm really proud of this. I think it's a really cool idea for a villain, and it just excites me. It makes me want to run games in the world, you know? Fistful of Dice says, and the Crucible says, hey, these 5 people need to be crucified on this specific day, or the timeline gets all messed up. Exactly this, Matt. That is why I called it the Crucible. I run a home game in the world, well, not a home game, an online game, and one of the things is that it opens up, you start in a tavern in Dragongrin, it's that the players are being crucified. This exact thing. And that will, if you go back and rewatch session 1 of those that remain, it'll have a lot more context, even though I didn't know this information fully when I ran it. I just had an idea. Hey, Mason Zilla says, hey, caught one live for once. Mason Zilla, welcome. It is awesome to have you here. Thanks for watching. Heavenly Hit Points. By the way, I have this idea for druids in D&D. Here's what I want you to do. I'm not going to read the rest of that comment. I want you to message it to me, and I'll do a stream about it tomorrow. Because I really want to keep this Dragongrin. So message me that, and you can do that at Tabletop Terrors Facebook or tabletopterrors@gmail.com, and I will start the stream tomorrow or put it in the beginning so that we can stay right on top. Mini Terrain Domain says, Dismembered Lord, more like Misremembered Lord, am I right? Alessandro says, what would happen if you steal the Crucible and use it for yourself? So I imagine the Crucible is the size of a room. I don't think that it's an object one could put in a satchel. And I think it's like, I would imagine it's a series of wires and things like that, and these arcane devices, like, it's like trying to disassemble a car and then reassemble it when you get, but if someone was powerful enough to do it, the Dismembered Lord would be without a Crucible and he'd stop at nothing to come and get it. Drake from the RPG Construct says, mind blown. All right, so I have one more thing I want to tell you guys and girls about Dragongrin and how all of this affects. If it's too loud, I'm sorry, because there's a leaf blower happening. But in Dragongrin, we have a race of sentient undead known as the Sarek. The Sarek have something known as bone flesh. They look as though their skeletal tissue is sort of an amalgamation of flesh and marrow, okay? You know, in fact, if you want to see, probably the closest I've seen to a Sarek is Skeletor from the 1980s He-Man movie. That sort of rubbery kind of face. In any event, why are they sentient undead? Why do the Sarek exist? How are they alive? Because they're not technically undead, but they are. The Sarek are people whom the Dismembered Lord has stolen their days. That is how the Sarek come to be in Dragongrin. And we like to think that when it happens, there's a sort of strange memory loss. And maybe you remember bits of who you were, maybe you don't. Depends what the Dismembered Lord stole from you. But he stole enough of your days so that in this paradoxical realm where time has almost stopped, essentially, you are a walking undead paradox. You're not alive and you're not dead. You're a Sarek. And this is one of the reasons why, like, we have a current, like, a little rule in there where you have to eat magic daily. Just weird stuff. And that's it. That's the cool thing. I think that's really neat. It's a real cool reason to have sentient undead. The Dismembered Lord stole your days. And I think it'd be kind of cool because I know a lot of players like to play the amnesia character. Well, you could have a variation of that with this. But also you could, like I said, you could retain some of your memories. You could retain all your memories. That's up to you and the DM, and that'll all be in the book. But I just love the way that all kind of tied in. Heavenly Hit Point says, how do I message Tim? What is his email? So you can either message Tabletop Terrors on Facebook or tabletopterrors@gmail.com. Oh my God, Rob from Performance Check has a brilliant idea, as always. He says, what about multiple phylacteries through various timelines and realities? Oh my God, I love that. I love that so much. He goes around making his own little Harry Potters. Pew, pew. Matt from A Fistful of Dice says, all of this reminds me of the Fate engine from Escaflowne, which is one of my favorite fantasy worlds. It's that dialed up to 11. Matt, I didn't even think about that, but it's brilliant and it's true. Man, I love it. Let's see here. And Juice says, awesome, thanks for answering my question. Of course. And Jake says, thanks for the plug, Tim. Of course. Jake, I'm a fan, man. I love your stuff. It's not even really a plug. Same thing with you, Drake. Mason Zilla says, the League of the Dismembered Lords, different timelines united to ensure supremacy. Dude, how cool would that be? That's like God tier. That's like end of campaign. Imagine this. Listen to this awful thing to do to your players. You play a game with them for like 5 years. And you play in Dragongrin and they eke their way up from level 0 and they finally get to the place. They're like level 20 and they finally take out the Dismembered Lord or imprison him. And as soon as they do, the epilogue to that, and I'd send it to him in a letter, send it to him in an email. You basically say, you narrate how this other alternate timeline version steps through and just takes his place. Like, how defeating would that be? But again, it's possibly what the players are signing up for when they start in Dragongrin, you know? All right, we got some questions as well. Zano says, the Sarek, your days are an empty void. Your life continues, but your soul does not. Ooh, that got me. That's a good one. What you looking at says, babe, it's not my fault. I forgot our anniversary. The Dismembered Lord must have stolen that day. Oh, that's good. That's a webcomic right there. Okay, Jared has a question. Jared Rogers. So question. So would he be able to bring people from other timelines, like alternate selves, or people for his army? So the way that I would like to think of that is, yes, but what would it do to the already shaky timeline, right? So all of those things, yeah. But I think that what this does, in addition to creating a cool framing device, is the timeline being real wobbly makes it so he can't just do whatever he wants. And so, yeah, he could probably bring people over, but would the crucible light up like a Christmas tree? You know? And so it has to be measured. It's a long game. It's, you know, decades. That kind of a thing. So, let's see here. Xano says, happy belated stolen day. Rob from Performance Check. It means if he's ever to be defeated, the multiverses have to converge to stop him. There is hope, however slight. Exactly. It's big and it's grand, but it's beatable. And it's like I said, I think it gives this really cool balance to a Dark Lord that isn't just running around killing everyone. It's like, it's a game of chess. Also, a lot of really cool opportunities in a dark land for political intrigue. Like, just cool stuff, I think. Jose Soto is here. What's up, Jose? We missed you, man. We were gonna wait for you, but then we couldn't. No, I'm just kidding, but it's good to have you here. What you looking at says, let's see here. Micah People says, how do the gods react to the Dismembered Lord and his chrono-siphoning? That's a super good question. In Dragongrin, the existence of the gods is unproven. So there is not a Paylor that you can just live really well and serve him and then all of a sudden go and shake his big golden hand. No one knows if the gods are real. So, it's kind of hopeless. There isn't. At least you have to prove it. And so the idea is, much like in our world, to prove your faith or to prove what you believe, you have to do it by actions. So some say that it is the gods themselves who power my magic. I'm touched by the divine and I will break through. Others posit that you're crazy and it's the bleak. And everybody knows it's the bleak. To them, it's like you're using a flashlight saying, God's giving me light. You're like, yeah, you're just using bleak energy. And many believe that it's somewhere in between. And that it's a mixture of both, and that maybe someday the deities will make themselves known and come and help the realm. See, Hollenbach says, do you think there would be a good guys policing the timelines against the Dismembered Lord? So, the way that we kind of thought of it, and Matt, you'd have to help me if you're still around. I don't remember what they are. They're like these gun witches. I don't remember what setting it is, but we sort of had this inspiration of these otherworldly creatures. So very eldritch, very like Lovecraftian kind of thing, where, okay, put it this way. We can't have mind flayers in Dragongrin. It's copyrighted. But I thought it would be really cool if we had these sort of, imagine an illithid, but more arachnid. So there are these like spider mandibles, and they're like real tall and thin, these spider creatures. And we'll have an illithid kind of name for them, but the name that's kind of bouncing around right now are Thought Weavers. Heavenly Hit Points, I just got your email. I saw the notification. So these Thought Weavers are the ones who are essentially like, they fill the role of what illithids or mind flayers would fill in Forgotten Realms. They would not be happy with the Dismembered Lord and his time shenanigans. And so I think that would be a good foil, because they can't defeat him either. But how powerful would an army of illithids be against a villain? It'd be very powerful. So it would still be a thorn in his side, an opposing cosmic entity that doesn't want to see all this happening. So that, because I like the idea that there's conflict for the Dismembered Lord too. That makes it more real, and it gives the world a sense of verisimilitude where, okay, he's the crucible's lighting up and the Dismembered Lord is quelling all of the disturbances, and then boom, this sort of black spot on the map, and it's the Thought Weavers. Like, it's just these illithids who are taking over people's minds, but again, not illithids, TM. But they're taking over people's minds, and they're basically, maybe that's what happens. Maybe if a Thought Weaver gets its tendrils in you, so to speak, you're sort of outside the timeline in a way, or you're unmanipulated, or you don't show up on the crucible. Maybe that's what it is. So you don't show up on the crucible if they get their tendrils in you and mind control you. Maybe they don't show up on the crucible. That's how you do it. You make the foil, or the enemy, have the strength that is the one weakness of the main character. In this case, the main character of this particular story is the Dismembered Lord. So that would be it. So the Thought Weavers don't show up on the crucible. So he hates them, because they can go around doing whatever they want, but their effects show up on the crucible. So if they go around and they take over a city, all of a sudden that thing's lit up like a Christmas tree out of nowhere. That kind of thing. Okay. All right, Heavenly Hit Points just sent me his first email, or her, ever in the whole world. So that's great. What's up? Fahad is here. What's going on, man? All right, what you're looking at says, question I put before. Does the Dismembered Lord seek out potential chrono mages? I answered this. Seems like a good campaign idea to do something like Jet Li's The One, where the Dismembered Lord goes rogue and travels through the timelines to become the only one. Totally. And that would probably be like the sort of breakout box we would do, where it's like, if you want to steal someone's days, steal the Dismembered Lord's days from another timeline, because he's probably got a flipping boatload. It's like in HOTS, where you go and kill the guy with all the doubloons or spider gems. So here, how about this? Breakout box in the book. Alternate reality, the Dismembered Lord is good. He's not the Dismembered Lord. He is akin to that, but he has done it right. He's Gandalf, essentially. That'd be cool. Andre, what's up? He says, hey guys, hey Tim. Oh man, Andre and I are working together on some cool stuff for Dragongrin. Can't talk about it just yet, but kiss his fingers. All right, Jared Rogers says, so since he drains days, couldn't he just steal people from the worlds he already ruined? That one? Yeah, I think so. I think he could, but again, I like to think that these kinds of things come at a cost. You can't just jump into another timeline and expect it not to ripple your own. He's standing on a rowboat in sort of, rocking waters. You can try to jump over to the other rowboat, but it's measured and you don't do it unless you have to. So yeah, he can, but anytime you try to change this, it's like every effect has an equal and opposite. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's where I was trying to get. C.A. Hollenbach says Gandalf the Black. Exactly. So in an alternate timeline, he's the Doctor. What you looking at? Yes! Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. It's really cool. Micah Peoples, last question. He says, so are longer lived races more oppressed for higher left or higher theft targets for the Dismembered Lord? I honestly hadn't thought of that until this very minute, but yes. Yes. In fact, we had it, I don't know why. You ever just get this kind of creative thing? You're like, I kind of like this. I just like that he was racist against dwarves. Like racist, like super bigot. So that would actually be a really cool way for him to oppress the dwarves. Is basically he just takes as many as he can. Vod says he sent his first email in 1776. You better have the best email name ever then if you had first pick. But see, we didn't have foresight back then. That's why all of our email names are something that we would like for a year at birthyear@juno.com. Let's see here. Micah People says, awesome. What you looking at? It says, poor Tom Bombadil was the Dismembered Lord's first target. Hey, dude, that guy was a huge roasted chicken. He was Kramer in Seinfeld. He looked like a giant bird. Andrew Knoll says, the good Dismembered Lord could be the one who tips off the heroes on how to fix the timeline, but can't do it himself because the whole butterfly effect. Yeah, see, this is the point. All of these cool framing devices creates endless story opportunity that make just enough sense so that the hand waving doesn't feel cheap. Well, I'm gonna end it here. I hope that helped. I hope it answers some questions about the Dismembered Lord and Dragongrin. Post your comments below. What do you think? Who do you think the Dismembered Lord is? How'd you handle any of this stuff in your realm, in your world? That's what I want to know. And so, may you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Sláinte. Until next time, everybody, may your dice roll high.